Welcome back to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
I was thinking about the idea of home this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just how we spend so much time curating our spaces,
Yeah.
picking the right paint colors, the comfiest furniture.
FS rugs.
Exactly. We build these little sanctuaries for ourselves. But today, we're going to look at something that is, well, likely hiding in millions of those sanctuaries right now.
Something hidden in plain sight.
And it's a byproduct of one of humanity's oldest technologies, fire.
It's the ghost in the machine, so to speak.
Ghost in the machine. I love that. And believe it or not, this isn't just going to be a home maintenance talk.
Not at all.
It's a fascinating lesson in organic chemistry, thermodynamics, and the physics of phase change.
All hiding in your fireplace.
We are talking about creosote, and I have to be completely honest with you, before we cracked open the research for this, specifically the report, The Science and Hazards of Chimney Creosote Formation, my understanding was remarkably low resolution.
Let me guess. You thought it was just dirt. Soot.
I thought creosote was just a fancy word for soot. You burn a log, it makes smoke, the smoke leaves some black dust behind. End of story.
Right.
I figured it was just the exhaust of the fireplace.
And that's probably the most common misconception we see.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's the most dangerous one.
How so?
Because if you think it's just dirt or ash, you treat it like a nuisance, something you sweep up eventually.
Yeah.
But when you actually dive into the source material, you realize creosote isn't just dirt. It's a complex, evolving chemical cocktail. It's a condensed byproduct of incomplete combustion.
Yeah.
That is, well, it's actively trying to kill your chimney.
That is the vibe I got from the reading. It feels less like dust and more like a living thing that evolves.
It absolutely does.
And that's really our mission for this deep dive.
Mm.
We want to understand how a solid oak log transforms into a gas, travels up a pipe, and somehow reforms into a glass-like, highly flammable ceramic that coats the inside of your home.
And we have to talk about the numbers. Because there's a specific temperature, 451 degrees Fahrenheit, that comes up in the research.
Ah, yes.
And understanding that number is the difference between a cozy night by the fire and a catastrophic structural failure.
451, a number with some literary history, which we will definitely get to, but let's start at the beginning. The source material lays out this really interesting roadmap, suggesting that creosote isn't just one thing.
No, it's a process, an evolution.
It actually has 3 distinct stages. But before we can even talk about the stages, we have to define the substance. If it's not just soot, what is it?
Chemically speaking, it's a mess.
A mess.
A total mess. It's not one thing you can point to on the periodic table. It's a mixture, a real cocktail.
So what's in it?
Oh, when they analyze samples, you find things like acetic acid, aldehydes, phenols, all sorts of tars.
And soot, I assume.
And so, yeah, that's in there too, some solid carbon particles. But it's all just mashed together into this volatile stew.
Wow. It sounds like a chemistry lab explosion just pasted on the inside of a chimney.
In a way, your chimney is a chemistry lab. And to understand how this stuff forms, we have to look at the creation myth of creosote. It starts with the log.
Okay.
When you put a piece of wood on a fire, what do you think is happening?
Well, it gets hot and it burns. It turns into heat and light.
That's the end result, sure. But the process is more nuanced. As the wood heats up, it undergoes thermal degradation. It doesn't just disappear.
Right.
It releases volatile gases. It releases water vapor, tars, unburned hydrocarbons, and microscopic particles. All of this stuff is coming off the wood. Now, in a perfect theoretical world,
The ideal scenario.
right, the ideal scenario, you'd have a fire that is incredibly hot with absolutely perfect airflow.
And in that perfect world, the flame just catches all of that stuff.
Exactly. In a highly efficient combustion zone, the flame is hot enough to incinerate those gases, those pars, those phenols, right there in the firebox. They get converted into pure energy heat. And the only thing going up the chimney is basically carbon dioxide and water vapor.
But we don't live in a perfect world.
We do not. We live in a world where people burn wet wood.
Or they dampen down the stove to make the fire last all night.
A huge one. Or the chimney is just cold because it's 10 degrees outside.
And that is the problem scenario, the source describes.
Correct. When the fire is cool or starved of air, those vapors don't burn. They survive the flame. They just sort of drift up the chimney.
Okay.
And this is where the physics kicks in. As they rise, they move further away from the heat source. And inevitably, they hit the walls of the flue.
And if the flue is cold?
It's the cold mirror effect.
Walk us through that. I think this is a fantastic analogy.
So imagine you take a scalding hot shower in a bathroom with a cold mirror. You step out, and the mirror is fogged up,
Right. Dripping wet.
dripping.
The steam hits the cold glass and turns back into water. Condensation.
Exactly. But let's look at the molecular level. That steam is water vapor gas molecules vibrating with high kinetic energy. They're flying around.
Uh-huh.
But the moment they slam into that cold glass surface, they lose that energy instantly. They crash. They slow down. They bond together. They phase shift from gas back to liquid.
Okay, so that's water. But in a chimney, we aren't just talking about water vapor.
That's the kicker. In a chimney, you have that same phase change happening, but the steam is loaded with heavy hydrocarbons, all those vaporized tars and resins,
And the messy stuff.
the messy, sticky molecules. When they hit the cold masonry or the metal liner, they undergo that same thermal shock. They revert from gas to liquid or solid instantly.
And unlike water on a mirror, which eventually evaporates,
This stuff stays. It essentially paints the wall. And because the flue surface is usually rough, think brick or clay, grips, it's not just a layer of moisture. It is a layer of potential fuel that you've just pasted onto the structure of your house.
so essentially creosote is wasted fuel.
That is my absolute favorite way to frame it. It represents potential energy that you failed to convert into heat for your living room.
Right.
Instead, because of physics and maybe some poor burning habits, it changed states and stuck to the wall to become a hazard.
That really reframes the whole issue for me. Every time I see gunk in a chimney now, I'm just going to think, hey, I paid for that heat and it escaped.
Precisely. And the source highlights that this isn't random. There are specific factors that accelerate this, and temperature is king.
Okay.
If you have an exterior chimney one that runs up the outside of the house rather than through the center, it's naturally colder. The masonry is basically a giant heat sink absorbing the outdoor cold.
Which means more condensation.
Rapid cooling of the smoke.
Mhm.
Exactly. Then you have airflow. If you have a poor draft, the smoke lingers. It loiters in the chimney.
It has more time to cool down.
It has way more time to hang out and deposit its payload on the walls.
And the fuel itself matters too, right? I feel like seasoned wood is the constant refrain of every chimney sweep I've ever heard of.
And for good reason. If you burn green or wet wood, you are literally boiling water in your fireplace. The energy that should be creating heat is instead being used to boil the sap out of the log.
So the fire is just cooler overall.
Massively cooler. Plus, you're injecting huge amounts of water vapor into the smoke stream, which just adds to the whole condensation mess. It's a double whammy.
Okay, so we've got the mechanism. We're turning organic gas back into solids because of a temperature drop. But the source material outlines this fascinating evolution. It says creosote isn't static, it changes. It goes through stages.
This is the part that usually surprises people. We treat creosote like a binary thing. You have it or you don't.
Right.
But the report distinguishes between 3 specific stages, and the risk profile changes dramatically from stage 1 to stage 3.
Let's unpack these because I think being able to identify them is crucial for anyone listening. So, stage 1. This is called the soot phase.
Right. Stage 1 is the most benign form, though I hate calling any creosote benign. Visually, this is what you probably pictured earlier.
The black dust.
Exactly. It's black or dark brown. It looks like charcoal dust or lamp black.
And the texture.
It's soft, fluffy, loose, powdery. Sometimes it's flaky, almost like a burnt, flaky pastry, but made of carbon.
If I touched it, would it be sticky?
No, usually not. It has very low adhesion. It sits on the wall, but it doesn't really bond to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just resting there.
So how does this form? Is this from a terrible fire?
Actually, no. And that's the interesting part. Stage 1 typically occurs when wood burns at lower than ideal temperatures, but the chimney itself is still relatively warm.
Oh, okay.
So you aren't getting that massive,
Yeah.
sudden thermal shock we talked about with the cold mirror. Only the lightest fractions of the smoke stream are condensing, mostly the solid particulates and very light soot. It often indicates moderate burning conditions. Not perfect, but not a disaster.
So if I look at my chimney and I see this fluffy black dust, is that the good news?
Relatively speaking, yes. The best thing about stage 1 is the cleanability.
Ah.
Because it's so dry and powdery. A standard chimney brush, the kind you see in Mary Poppins, knocks it right off. It falls down, you shovel it out, you're done.
And what about the fire risk? Is it still a danger?
It is the least flammable of the stages. It's still fuel, sure, but because it's so loose and fluffy, Has a lot of surface area, but very low density.
So it burns fast.
So it burns very fast. If a spark hits it, the flame usually flashes through it quickly. It burns up like flash paper. It doesn't typically sustain a long, roaring blaze because there isn't enough concentrated mass to hold the heat.
But I feel like there is a however coming.
There is always a however. The hidden danger of stage 1 is that if you leave it uncleaned, it acts as a foundation.
Huh.
Think of it like a primer coat of paint. A rough, sooty surface catches the next layer of smoke much better than a smooth clay liner. It gives the heavier, stickier tars something to grab onto later.
So it's the gateway drug to stage 2.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
the welcome mat for the bad stuff.
Which brings us to stage 2, the tar phase. How do we get from fluffy dust to tar? The source mentions this happens when conditions degrade.
Right, so let's say the draft gets worse, or the flue is oversized so the smoke moves too slowly, or you start burning that wet wood we warned against.
The problem scenario.
The problem scenario is now in full effect. The smoke is cooling much faster. It's not just the light particles condensing anymore. Now the heavier organic vapors, the oils, the resins, are dropping out of suspension.
And the chemistry changes.
Drastically.
Hmm.
We are not dealing with dry carbon dust anymore. We are dealing with goo.
Ugh.
The texture shifts completely. When stage 2 is fresh, it's sticky. It's like warm road tar or thick molasses.
That sounds incredibly messy to deal with.
It is. And when it dries or hardens, it becomes rubbery, leathery, or flaky. It forms these rippled, bubbled, or streaked layers of brown and black.
And it sticks.
And unlike stage 1, this stuff clings. It bonds tightly to clay, to masonry, to metal liners. It really grabs on.
I can imagine this is a real headache for a chimney sweep. The Mary Poppins brush isn't going to cut it, is it?
No, not at all. Those standard stiff bristles often just smear the material around.
Ew.
It's like trying to sweep up peanut butter with a broom. You just spread the mess.
Gross. And the source mentions a concept called polymerization in relation to this stage. I know that's a big science word, but what is actually happening there?
It's fascinating chemistry. So you have this sticky tar on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Then you light another fire.
Right.
The heat from that new fire rises up.
Yeah.
It might not be hot enough to burn the tar off, but it is hot enough to bake it.
Okay.
This heat causes the molecules in the tar to link up. That's polymerization. They'd form longer, stronger chains.
It cures the tar, like
Yeah.
a resin.
Exactly. It hardens chemically. So over time, that gooey mess becomes a hard, leathery shell.
Mm.
And this creates a feedback loop.
A feedback loop.
Yes. As this layer builds up, it physically narrows the flue. A narrower flue means more friction for the smoke.
Which slows it down.
More friction slows the smoke down. Slower smoke cools down faster. Cooler smoke deposits more creosote.
It's a self-perpetuating cycle of failure. The chimney is slowly choking itself.
Precisely. And if you let that cycle continue, you graduate to the final level,
Stage 3, the boss level of creosote.
also known as glazed creosote.
Glazed makes it sound like a donut or a ceramic pot. I have a feeling this is deceptively named.
The naming is strictly visual, and it's very accurate. Stage 3 looks like a ceramic glaze. It's black, shiny, and glassy.
Really?
Yeah, it can look like tar that dripped down the wall and just froze in time.
Yeah.
It glistens.
That sounds almost pretty.
It is oddly beautiful in a destructive way. But that shine is a warning. It tells you the material is rock hard. You could hit it with a hammer and it might chip, but it wouldn't crumble like soot.
How does soot and tar turn into a ceramic rock?
It's the result of repeated, intense heating and cooling cycles. Imagine you have a thick layer of that stage 2 tar. You have a smoldering fire that adds more fresh tar to it. Then you have a really hot fire that melts it all. It boils, it bubbles, removing water and some of the lighter chemicals. Then the fire dies down, and it cures again, harder this time.
So you are refining the fuel.
Yes. You are essentially distilling wood tar and baking it onto the wall. You're getting rid of the impurities and creating a dense, highly concentrated layer of volatile organic compounds.
So why is this stage 3 so much worse than stage 2? Is it just the hardness?
It's two main things. First, fuel density. This stuff is packed with energy. It's just waiting to burn.
Right.
Second, removal difficulty. We talked about brushes smearing stage 2. Brushes barely scratch stage 3. It's like trying to scrub concrete with a toothbrush.
So if a sweep comes in and sees this, what do? Do they just give up?
They have to bring out the heavy artillery. We are talking rotary chains.
The chains.
Imagine a drill spinning ahead with metal chains on it, literally beating the inside of the chimney to shatter the glaze, or heavy-duty steel cables.
That sounds violent and potentially damaging to the chimney itself.
It is violent, and yes, it can be damaging, and sometimes even that doesn't work. In many cases, they have to use harsh chemical treatments, industrial solvents, to spray the glaze and try to chemically soften it over days or weeks just so they can chip it off.
And sometimes, I've heard, it's just game over.
Yes. Sometimes the glazing is so thick or the structure behind it is so compromised that you can't clean it without destroying the chimney. The only option is to reline the chimney. Basically, abandon the old flue and put a new stainless steel pipe inside it.
All because the smoke cooled down too much.
And because that glaze is so thick and smooth, it drastically reduces the flue diameter. It can block the draft so badly that the appliance becomes unusable. Smoke just spills into the room because it physically cannot get out fast enough.
So we have these three stages: fluffy sit, sticky tar, and rock-hard glaze. But the real danger isn't just that it blocks the chimney, it's that it burns.
It burns hot.
And this brings us to the thermodynamics of the danger. This is where the outline highlights the most terrifying math in the whole report.
The temperature thresholds.
Right. The source highlighted two specific temperatures: 284 degrees Fahrenheit and 451 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's start with the lower one, 284. Why does this number matter?
284 degrees Arifea is the approximate dew point for the chemicals in smoke. It's the threshold for condensation.
The tipping point.
The tipping point, exactly. If the gases in your flue drop below 284 degrees, condensation begins. That's it. Above that temperature, the water and the hydrocarbons stay as a gas and float away into the atmosphere. Below that temperature, they turn into liquid and solid gunk on your walls.
So the goal of any chimney system, the prime directive, if you will, is to keep the smoke above 284 degrees until it exits the top.
That's it. Maintaining that internal temperature is the key to prevention.
Okay, now let's talk about the scary number. 451 degrees Fahrenheit.
Ray Bradbury fans will recognize this immediately.
Fahrenheit 451, the temperature at which book paper catches fire.
Correct. But coincidentally and terrifyingly, it's also roughly the temperature at which creosote can ignite.
451 degrees, that seems intimately low.
Doesn't it?
I mean, I bake pizza at 450. When I roast a chicken, I'm at 400. We are talking about kitchen temperatures here.
It is shockingly low.
Yeah.
And this is the critical misunderstanding most homeowners have. People assume a chimney fire needs a spark.
Right, like an ember flies up and lights it.
They think a flame has to physically reach up the chimney and touch the creosote to light it.
You're telling me that's not true.
It is not. You do not need a direct flame. This is about auto-ignition.
Okay, explain that.
If you have a thick layer of that stage 3 glaze, and you build a roaring fire in the stove below, the heat rising up the chimney can raise the temperature of the glaze itself.
Just the radiant heat.
Just the heat. Once that mass of creosote hits 451 degrees Fa, the volatile compounds inside it begin to break down rapidly. They release their own heat.
An exothermic reaction.
Exactly. It starts making its own heat. It ignites. And because it's releasing heat, it ignites the creosote next to it.
It's a chain reaction, a thermal runaway.
Precisely. One section gets hot enough, ignites, releases massive heat, which ignites the section above it, and so on up the flue. And remember, we said stage 3 creosote is dense fuel. When that chain reaction starts, it's not a cozy campfire.
The source describes the intensity of a chimney fire. It says temperatures can skyrocket from that 451 ignition point to over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
Think about that jump from baking a pizza to volcanic lava.
Wow.
2,000 degrees is hot enough to melt aluminum. It's pushing the melting point of copper.
That is insane. And the sound. Witnesses often describe it as a freight train or a jet engine roaring inside their house.
That roar is the draft. The fire gets so hot that it creates a massive vacuum, sucking air up the chimney with incredible force to feed the flames.
Now, chimneys are made of brick and mortar. They're designed for fire, so why is this a problem? Can't the bricks handle it?
They can handle fireplace heat. They're not designed for blast furnace heat. Physics is brutal here.
So what happens?
At 2,000 degrees, clay flue tiles, the terracotta liner of your chimney, experience thermal shock. They expand too fast. They crack. They split. They can literally explode.
And if you have a metal liner?
It can warp, buckle, or split open like a zipper.
Yeah.
And the mortar between the bricks. It can melt or just turn to powder.
And once that liner is breached?
That's the catastrophic failure. The heat escapes the chimney and reaches the wood framing of the house, the studs, the rafters, and here's a term the source used that I found fascinating. Pyrolysis.
Yes, pyrolysis. Unpack that for us.
Pyrolysis is the chemical decomposition of organic material by heat. Basically, if the wood framing near your chimney gets hot enough, repeatedly, it chemically changes.
Okay.
It dries out completely. It turns into something resembling charcoal. Its ignition temperature drops significantly.
So the wood in your walls becomes easier to burn.
Much, much easier. During a chimney fire, that pyrolyzed wood can catch fire way easier than normal wood. You don't even need the flame to touch it. The radiant heat passing through the cracked masonry is enough to set the house on fire.
That is incredibly sobering. It's not just about the fire inside the chimney. It's about what that fire does to everything around it.
Precisely. It turns the chimney from an exhaust pipe into a heat radiator that cooks the house.
Now, aside from the dramatic fire risk, the source mentioned another insidious threat, something less explosive but equally destructive: moisture and acid.
Right. This is the slow killer. Creosote is hygroscopic.
Hygroscopic, great word, means it loves water.
It absorbs moisture from the air, like a sponge.
Hmm.
And this matters because when creosote gets wet, it swells.
Mm.
So if you have a layer of stage 2 or 3 creosote and it's a humid summer day, that gunk is swelling up, locking your chimney even further.
And the source mentioned acid.
Yes. When water mixes with the compounds in creosote, the phenols and acetic acid we mentioned earlier, it creates a corrosive slurry.
So it's basically an acid bath for your chimney.
It is. This acid eats away at everything. It corrodes stainless steel liners, creating pinholes. It eats away at the mortar joints between bricks, turning the hard mortar into sand. It literally dissolves the glue holding your chimney together.
It accelerates the aging of the entire system.
Dramatically.
And I bet that smells delightful.
Oh, the summer stink.
Yeah.
That is a classic symptom. In warm, humid weather, those trapped compounds vaporize. But because it's summer, your house often has negative pressure. The air conditioning is running, fans are on, so it pulls air down the chimney.
So you are pulling that acidic, tarry vapor right into your living room.
Exactly. If your fireplace smells like an old asphalt road in July or a wet ashtray, you have a creosote problem.
Okay, we have terrified everyone sufficiently. We know what it is, we know how it kills your chimney, and we know how it can burn your house down. Let's pivot to diagnostics and prevention. How does a regular homeowner, someone who isn't going to climb onto a snowy roof, know what's going on?
The source gives us some great visual cues, and it all comes down to reading the smoke.
Reading the smoke, like a signal.
Exactly. It's the easiest diagnostic tool you have. Next time you have a fire going, put on your coat and go outside. Look at your chimney.
What are we looking for?
If you see clear vapor transparent, maybe a little white wispy steam that dissipates quickly, that is good.
Why is that good?
Clear vapor indicates complete combustion. You're seeing mostly water vapor and carbon dioxide. Those are the natural byproducts of a perfect burn. There's almost nothing in that exhaust capable of condensing into creosote.
Okay, and the bad signal?
Black smoke. Or thick, dark, gray smoke that just hangs in the air.
And that means?
Incomplete combustion. That color comes from unburned carbon, tars, and oils. It is literally fuel flying out of your chimney.
Wow.
If you see black smoke, it means two things. One, you are wasting wood. And two, your chimney is likely below that 284-degree threshold, and that black stuff is sticking to the walls on its way out.
So black smoke is basically a neon sign saying, I am making creosote right now.
That is exactly what it is. It's a distress signal from your chimney.
So what causes that? Is it just the wood?
It's the wood, but more often, it's the operation. And this is the biggest takeaway for the user. Smoldering fires are the enemy.
We all love to do it, though. You dampen down the stove so the log lasts all night. It feels efficient because the wood lasts longer.
It feels efficient, but it's dangerously inefficient. Choking down the air starves the fire. It lowers the temperature. It creates that cool, tar-rich smoke.
So what's the alternative?
Short, hot fires are infinitely better for your system than long, cool ones.
So burn it hot, burn it bright.
And keep the draft moving. You want that smoke to exit the building before it has a chance to cool down? Get it out of the house.
This has been a massive wake-up call. I want to try to synthesize all this, to bring it all together. We started with a log.
We started with a log. And we learned that if we don't burn that log completely, the leftovers turn into gas.
And if that gas hits a cold wall, it becomes stage 1 soot. Fluffy, easy to clean, but a primer for worse things.
But if we ignore it, or keep burning poorly with wet wood or low air, it becomes stage 2 tar.
Sticky, rubbery, messy. A real problem to clean. Okay, we're going to hit pause on your training session for just a minute. I know you're probably deep in the weeds of, a flue liner tutorial or something. But we really need to talk about who is actually producing all of this content.
Right. If you're here watching these videos, you're already getting the benefit of the training. But there's a much bigger ecosystem behind this YouTube channel. We're looking at chimneysweeps.com, and it's pretty clear this isn't just a media company. It's more like a funnel, a vetting engine for the industry.
That's a really important distinction, because usually with these online directories, you just pay a fee, you get your pin on a map. Is that what's happening here? Is this just another pay-to-play model?
No. The documentation we have suggests it's the opposite. It seems like they're trying to solve that classic low-bidder problem that plagues the trades. They're not looking for advertisers. They're building a vetted network. And that standard, it seems to come directly from the founder, Ray Gessner.
I was looking at his bio. You don't often see this kind of background. It's this mix of high-level academic engineering and, actual trade mastery. You usually get the guy in the office or the guy in the truck.
Exactly. And that combination is really the key here. Ray isn't just some tech guy. He has a master's degree in civil engineering. He's a licensed professional engineer, a PE in multiple states.
But he also holds master licenses, HVAC, gas fitter, plumber.
And he's a certified home inspector through NACI.
So he's looking at a chimney as both a structural engineer and as a hands-on inspector. But how does that actually translate to the platform? Is it just good branding?
It seems to be baked right into the gatekeeping. Because he understands the physics, the code, the actual science behind it, the platform can enforce a technical standard that, a simple lead gen site just couldn't. Which brings us to their whole gold standard vetting process.
Okay, right. So for the professionals listening right now, the ones who are already doing great work, how does the platform actually verify that? How do they filter out the noise?
Well, it starts with the basics, the non-negotiables. You have to have the proper licensing, general liability insurance, workers' comp, all of that.
The table stakes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the real barrier to entry is the CCI exam, the Certified Chimney Inspector Test.
And this isn't just one of those watch a video and click a button certifications.
Well, far from it. Ray Gessner developed this exam himself to test for technical accuracy, safety knowledge. It's designed to be difficult. It's a filter, plain and simple. It ensures that if a homeowner finds you through them, they're not just getting a name from a list. They're getting someone who passed a really tough technical evaluation.
Okay, so let's say a listener runs that gauntlet. They've got the insurance, they study, they pass the CCI exam, they're in. What's the actual utility for them? Why jump through all those hoops instead of, say, just buying more Google ads?
Because it shifts you from just being listed somewhere to being part of an operational support system. The sources show a few key benefits. First, there's the proprietary inspection report software.
Which I'm guessing is based on those same engineering standards we were just talking about.
Precisely. It automates the reporting, so your paperwork has the same rigor as the inspection itself. Then there's the community. You get access to these monthly online forums, mentorship, networking. It's like a mastermind group for ethical operators.
And that brings us to getting the actual clients. Let's talk about the number 833-CHIMNEY.
That's the engine. The website, that phone number, they drive homeowners who are specifically looking for qualified professionals. These are not people just shopping for the cheapest price. They're looking for vetted expertise for big jobs, relining, structural engineering inspections.
So it creates this kind of feedback loop. You watch the free training, like the video you're probably watching right now, to get better at your job. Then you pass the exam to prove you're good. And then the platform sends you customers who actually value and are willing to pay for that expertise.
It helps the good guys build stronger businesses because they finally stop competing with the companies that are just cutting corners. It really elevates the trade.
So I guess here's the challenge for everyone listening. You are sitting here right now. You're learning for free from one of the best sources in the world. But the real question is, are you ready to capitalize on it? Are you good enough to pass that CCI exam, to join the network, and be recognized as one of the best?
If you think you're operating at that level, head over to the site. Click Join Us.
All right, we'll let you get back to your training now. Thanks for listening.
And if we bake that tar over and over,
it becomes stage 3 glaze. Hard, dangerous, and a ticking time bomb.
A time bomb with a 451-degree trigger.
It really reinforces the core philosophy here. Creosote isn't just bad luck. It isn't just something that happens. It's a symptom.
That is the expert view. Creosote is evidence of poor performance. It proves that you have low heat and incomplete combustion. It's a scorecard for your fire-burning habits.
A scorecard.
I like that. If you have creosote, you are failing the test of combustion.
And that final takeaway about the temperature gap really sticks with me. The ignition point is 451 degrees Fahrenheit. That's so reachable.
Deceptively so.
But the resulting fire is 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
A small threshold crossed leads to a massive energetic event. That is the definition of a hazard.
And of course, the safety reminder. Get your chimney inspected. You cannot see stage 3 glaze from your living room sofa.
No.
You need a pro to look down that flue and tell you which stage you are living with.
Absolutely. Don't guess. The chemistry is happening whether you see it or not.
Here's a provocative thought to leave you with today. We talked about creosote being wasted fuel. I want you to really think about that the next time you load your stove or fireplace. Look at the smoke. Every bit of creosote stuck to your chimney wall represents energy that didn't heat your home.
That's right.
It's heat you paid for, bought, and stacked, but instead of warming your family, it transformed into a bomb in your attic. We have this image in our heads of the perfect fire.
The classic cozy fire.
Yeah, it's late evening, maybe it's snowing outside, you want a cozy vibe, so you build a fire, and maybe you choke the air down a bit so the logs smolder and last all night. It feels efficient.
You feel safe.
It feels gentle.
And that feeling is the single most dangerous illusion in home heating.
Wow.
That gentle, long-lasting fire is actually the primary architect of disaster. When you burn that way, you are effectively manufacturing fuel.
And pasting it to the wall.
And pasting it to the walls of your home. Exactly.
That is the hook for me today. That is what grabbed me by the throat in the reading. We think we're being careful, but we're actually building a bomb.
You are.
So the mission for this deep dive is to stop treating chimney maintenance as a chore like, cleaning the gutters or mowing the lawn, and start treating it like physics.
Because it is physics. It's fluid dynamics, it's thermodynamics, and it's organic chemistry.
We are going to look at the fluid dynamics of smoke, the hardcore chemistry of this nightmare substance called stage 3 creosote, and the detective work required to stop a disaster before it starts. But before we get into the molecules, we have to define what that disaster actually looks like, because when we say chimney fire, I think most people picture a few sparks popping out the top, maybe a little smoke.
Right. I think that's the common perception. A little drama, maybe the neighbors call the fire department, but no big deal.
But the source material describes the classic violent chimney fire in a way that honestly gave me chills. It describes a sound.
It sounds like a freight train. That is the universal description from survivors and firefighters. It isn't a crackle. It's a low-frequency roar that shakes the floorboards.
And visually, what are we looking at?
Oh, it is visceral. You aren't seeing sparks. You are seeing a jet engine.
A jet engine.
You have flames shooting 10, 15 feet out of the top of the chimney like a rocket nozzle. Inside the house, the walls are vibrating. You have clay tiles inside the chimney cracking from the thermal shock.
Oh my God.
Which sounds like gunshots going off inside the wall.
And the research mentions something about the wood framing of the house itself.
This is the most insidious part. The heat transfer is so intense that the wood framing of your house, the studs hidden behind the drywall touching the masonry, can start to smoke and char.
Without even touching flame.
Without ever touching a flame. They can reach their auto-ignition point.
So it's an uncontrolled combustion event happening inside a vertical tunnel right in the middle of your living room.
Exactly. And our goal today is to understand how we get from that cozy Saturday night fire to that freight train scenario.
Right.
And we're doing that by adopting the mindset of the author of our source text. We need to stop thinking like cleaners.
And start thinking like detectives.
And start thinking like detectives at a crime scene.
I love that framing.
Yeah.
Because the evidence is all there on the flue walls. So let's open the case file on segment 1, the mechanics of accumulation, or as I've started calling it, the comfort trap.
The comfort trap is a perfect name for it because the root cause of almost every chimney fire is the homeowner's desire for a comfortable room temperature.
It seems so counterintuitive. You'd think the dangerous fires are the ones that are roaring and huge.
Right.
But this all revolves around a very specific number mentioned in the physics section of the text, 451 degrees Fahrenheit.
Right, 451. Memorize that number.
Okay.
That is the critical threshold for the flue gas temperature.
Why is that specific temperature the line in the sand? What happens at 451?
It comes down to phase changes.
Okay.
When you burn wood, you aren't just creating heat, you are releasing gases, particulate matter, and a lot of water vapor. As long as those gases stay hotter than 451 degrees, they remain a gas.
They're buoyant?
They're buoyant. They float up, they exit the chimney, and they disperse into the atmosphere. No harm, no foul.
But if they drop below 451?
They hit the dew point, they condense.
Uh-huh.
But instead of water dew forming on grass, you have heavy organic vapor stars, resins, unburned hydrocarbons, turning from a gas into a liquid.
Oh.
They drop out as suspension and splatter against the masonry walls of the chimney. That is the birth of creosote.
Okay, so let's unpack the behavior here, because I don't think anyone sits around with a thermometer measuring their smoke. We just light the logs.
Right.
How do we accidentally drop below 451 degrees?
By trying to be comfortable. Think
Right.
about it. If you build a roaring fire that keeps the smoke at 600 or 700 degrees all the way to the top of the chimney, you are generating a massive amount of radiant heat.
Your living room becomes a sauna.
Exactly. You are going to drive your living room temperature up to 85 or 90 degrees. It's too hot. You'll be sweating. You'll be opening windows.
Right. It becomes unbearable. So
Yeah.
we modulate, we put on a log, and we close the damper a bit. We want a nice, steady 70-degree warmth.
Precisely. But think about the physics of that steady warmth. You are burning at a low temperature. That means the smoke is cooler entering the flue. And because the draft is weaker, because heat creates draft, the smoke moves slowly. It's sluggish.
It's lazy smoke.
It's lazy smoke.
And time is the enemy here.
Correct. The longer the smoke hangs around inside the chimney, the more time it has to transfer its heat to the bricks.
It just cools down. And that's where it rains tar inside your flue.
Exactly. It condenses on the coldest surfaces first, which are usually near the top. And this sets off a feedback loop that the source material outlines in really depressing detail. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, walk us through this loop, because it's not just that the chimney gets dirty, right? The dirtiness actually changes the physics of the chimney
Yes.
to make it get dirtier.
It creates a self-reinforcing failure mode. Imagine the inside of a brand new clay flue. It's relatively smooth. The smoke flows up easily, minimizing friction.
Mhm.
Now, you do a few of these low-temp comfort burns. You coat the walls with a thin layer of sticky creosote.
Okay, so now the walls are rough, like sandpaper or gravel.
They are rough, and the diameter of the pipes is slightly smaller.
Right.
Roughness creates turbulence. Turbulence creates drag. Friction increases.
Which slows the smoke down even more.
Right. Now the smoke is moving slower than it was yesterday.
Uh-huh.
Because it's moving slower, it spends even more time in the chimney,
Which means it cools down even more.
which causes more condensation,
Which makes the layer thicker and rougher.
which slows the smoke down further.
Wow. So it's compounding interest, but for fire hazards?
It is a spiral,
Mm-hmm.
and the homeowner is completely oblivious. They are sitting in their living room. The fire looks normal. The room is warm. They have no idea that 20 feet above their heads, the flue is choking itself to death.
And that phrase from the text, concentrated fuel layer, is terrifying.
Yeah.
We aren't talking about dust or soot, really. We are talking about potential energy plastered to the walls.
That's the key distinction. It is distilled fuel. It's everything in the wood that didn't burn, the energy you paid for, stored up for later.
Like a battery.
It is a battery of chemical energy waiting for a trigger.
Which leads us directly into the nightmare scenario. Segment 2. The ignition event. Or, as the outline puts it, when the fuse is lit.
This is the part that always baffles homeowners. We hear it all the time in the industry.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything different. I've been burning fires this way for 10 years. Why did it explode tonight?
It's the out-of-nowhere phenomenon.
Right. People think a chimney fire comes from gross negligence, like throwing gasoline on a fire.
Yeah.
But usually it happens during a totally normal burn.
So what changes? If the feedback loop has been running for years and the creosote is there, what triggers the explosion?
The catalyst can be tiny. The source mentions a few possibilities. Maybe it's a windy night. A gust of air creates a pressure differential that shoots a blast of oxygen down the chimney.
Yeah.
Or maybe you threw in a piece of kiln-dried lumber, like a scrap of 2x4, that burned a little hotter and faster than your usual oak.
Or maybe you just got distracted.
Exactly. You left the stove door open for 30 seconds too long when you were looking for the poker.
And that creates a momentary spike in temperature.
That's all it takes. Just one tongue of flame or one pocket of superheating gas reaching up into the smoke chamber.
And here's where it gets interesting.
And here's the key concept from the text that I found fascinating. Creosote acts like a fuse.
A fuse.
Yes. You don't need the whole chimney to catch fire simultaneously. You just need one spot.
Ah.
It often starts low, maybe in the smoke chamber right above the firebox or in the first couple of flue tiles. That area gets hot enough, about 1,000 degrees or so, to ignite the layer of creosote right there.
And once that spot ignites.
It generates intense localized heat, far hotter than the wood fire below.
Wow.
That heat rises instantly, because heat rises, and ignites the layer of creosote just above it. Then that layer ignites the one above it.
It's a vertical chain reaction.
And it happens fast. The fire drives upward, transforming the chimney into what the text calls a vertical combustion chamber.
That is such a vivid image. It's not a chimney anymore. It's an engine.
It really is.
Yeah.
As the fire climbs, it creates a massive thermal draft. It starts sucking air from the living room with incredible force.
That's the freight train sound.
That's why you get that freight train sound. You have a massive volume of air being sucked in to feed this raging fire, and the exhaust is being forced out the top at high velocity.
Yeah.
It creates a vacuum effect.
And the aftermath described, it's not pretty. The text lists the damages.
No, we're talking about cracked clay tiles, which ruins the chimney liner. Once a tile cracks, the protection is gone. The heat can bypass the liner and reach the house structure. We're talking about warped metal liners that look like crushed soda cans.
And the pyrolysis you mentioned earlier, let's dig into that for a second. What is pyrolysis exactly?
Pyrolysis is the chemical decomposition of organic material by heat in the absence of oxygen. Essentially, if you have a wood stud behind your wall and you heat it up repeatedly or heat it intensely during a chimney fire, the chemical structure of the wood changes. It turns into charcoal.
So it becomes more flammable.
Its ignition point lowers, exactly.
Right.
So during a chimney fire, that heat radiates through the bricks. It hits that dried out, pyrolyzed wood framing.
And it can just ignite.
The wood can spontaneously combust. You could put out the chimney fire, go to bed, and have your wall catch fire 3 hours later.
That is horrifying. So the core lesson here is really about the slow build. The danger isn't one big fire.
No.
It's the hundreds of low-temperature safe fires that built the trap, followed by one unlucky spike that sprung it.
Exactly. You build the bomb one log at a time. You just light the fuse once.
That is a heavy realization. But we need to talk about the villain of this story in more detail.
We do.
The source material gets really specific about the types of creosote. It's not all just fluffy black dust, and there is one type that stands out as the ultimate antagonist, stage 3.
Yes. Glazed creosote.
Yeah.
This is the stuff that nightmares are made of for chimney sweeps.
So let's get into the chemistry here, segment 3. What makes stage 3 different from just regular soot?
It comes down to a process called polymerization.
Ooh, technical term. Let's break that down for the non-chemists.
So creosote starts as wood tar vapors, phenols, aldehydes, unburned hydrocarbons.
Okay.
If they just condense quickly, they form stage 1 or stage 2 creosote, which is flaky, puffy, or maybe a bit crunchy.
Stuff you can brush off.
It's dirty, but you can brush it off.
Yeah. Okay. But stage 3 is different.
Stage 3 happens when you have those layers of tar and you subject them to repeated cycles of heating and cooling without burning them off. The molecules change. They cross-link.
Like they're bonding, like a glue.
Exactly. Imagine a bowl of loose spaghetti strings. That's the tar. Now imagine you pour epoxy over it and let it harden. The molecules link together into long, stable carbon chains. It effectively becomes a resin or an enamel. It loses its moisture, becomes chemically denser, and hardens into a shiny, glass-like coating.
Glass-like, so it's not fuzzy.
No. It looks like someone poured black candy glaze or obsidian down your chimney and let it harden. It is thermally cured to the clay or metal.
And I assume you can't just brush this stuff out.
That's the problem. Mechanical cleaning fails. You can take a stiff wire brush and shove it down there with all your strength, and the bristles will just glide over the surface.
I think it's too hard.
It's too hard. It's smooth. It's bonded like an epoxy to the wall.
So if you can't brush it out, and it's basically solid fuel waiting to ignite, what do? You can't just leave it. The text talks about chemical remediation.
This is the science of breaking those bonds. You can't scrub it away, so you have to change its state of matter. You have to use chemistry to make it brushable.
The source mentions two main approaches. One involves sweeping logs, and the other is alkaline treatments. Let's start with the logs. How does burning a log fix a chemical glaze?
Well, it's not just a log, it's a delivery system.
Okay.
These logs are impregnated with catalytic chemicals, usually manganese and copper. When you burn them, they don't just produce heat, they release metallic vapors.
And these vapors rise up.
These vapors rise up the flue and attach themselves to the creosote.
So the vapor attacks the glue holding the molecules together.
Essentially, the metal ions act as a catalyst. They penetrate the glaze and disrupt that carbon chain matrix. After a few fires with these catalysts, that shiny, hard surface starts to craze. It cracks. It becomes brittle.
Okay. And what about the alkaline approach? The text mentions products like Creosote or PCR.
That works a bit differently. These are usually powders or sprays that use magnesium-based compounds or trisodium phosphate. It's an acid-base reaction.
High school chemistry flashback.
Exactly. Creosote is highly acidic. These treatments are highly alkaline, or basic. When you spray them into the flue, they attack the acidity of the creosote layers.
And what does neutralizing do to the physical structure?
It causes chemical dehydration. It sucks the water out of the molecular structure. As the pH changes, the creosote expands and contracts microscopically.
So it loses its grip.
It loses its grip on the flue wall and becomes friable.
Friable, good word, meaning crumbly.
Yes, it turns from hard candy into chalk or popcorn.
Wow.
And once it's chalky, then, and only then, can the chimney sweep come in with a rotary tool and actually clean it out.
So the chemicals don't magic it away. They just set the stage for the physical work.
Precisely. They turn an impossible job into a possible one.
This brings us to a crucial pivot in the discussion. We've talked about the symptom, the creosote,
Right.
but the source material makes a really strong point. Creosote is just the symptom. The disease is how we operate the fire.
This is the detective's mindset we talked about. When a professional sees heavy creosote, they shouldn't just think, time to clean. They should think, why is this here?
Right.
Because a properly functioning system shouldn't produce massive amounts of stage 3 creosote.
So let's look at the root cause. Segment 4, the physics of combustion. And specifically, the air-to-fuel ratio.
This is the most misunderstood concept in wood burning, we tend to think. Wood burns. Fire hot. Simple.
Yeah.
But wood is chemically complex. It's cellulose, hemicellulose, lignin. To burn those things completely, to break them down into CO2 and water vapor, you need oxygen.
A lot of oxygen. The text mentions the 6.4 rule.
Right. Theoretically, purely chemically, it takes about 6.4 pounds of air to efficiently burn just 1 pound of wood.
Wait, pounds of air. We usually think of air as weightless.
It feels weightless, but it has mass. And 6.4 pounds of air is a massive volume.
Yeah.
It's roughly the size of a small bedroom full of air just to burn one small log completely.
That is insane.
And in the real world, you actually need even more than that, maybe 10 or 12 pounds, because fireplaces aren't perfect engines.
That is a staggering amount of air.
It is. And most fires are chronically oxygen-starved.
Going back to that smoldering myth we touched on earlier, the idea of closing the vents to make the log last.
That is the single biggest cause of oxygen starvation. When you restrict the air, you are literally choking the combustion. You get incomplete combustion.
Right.
The wood breaks down into gases, but there isn't enough oxygen to ignite those gases.
So what happens to them?
They float up the chimney as unburned hydrocarbons. That is literally lost potential heat.
You're just wasting your money.
You are paying for wood, but instead of turning it into heat for your room, you are turning it into glue for your chimney.
Now, what about the wood itself? We always hear don't burn green wood, but the physics of why is really interesting. It's not just that it's hard to light.
No, it's a thermodynamics problem. Water has a very high heat capacity. When you put a wet log, say 30% moisture content, into the fire has to waste a massive amount of energy just to boil that water into steam.
Phase change energy.
Correct. It takes 970 BTUs to turn 1 pound of water into steam. That energy is stolen directly from the combustion process, so the fire burns cooler.
Okay.
But there is a second problem that the text highlights. Displacement.
Displacement.
Think about the volume.
Right.
Water expands 1,600 times when it turns to steam.
Whoa.
All that steam coming off the wet log physically takes up space in the firebox. It pushes the oxygen away.
So you have a double whammy. The fire is too cold to burn clean, and the steam is physically pushing away the oxygen it needs to recover.
It effectively ruins that 6.4 ratio we just talked about.
Yeah.
It completely destroys the efficiency.
There's one more factor in this detective story that I hadn't considered before. The house itself. The text talks about pressure problems.
This is a modern home problem. We build houses tight now, energy efficient, weather stripping, triple pane windows.
Yeah.
But then we installed giant kitchen exhaust fans, clothes dryers, HVAC systems. All of those things push air out of the house.
So they create negative pressure.
Yes. The house is trying to suck air in to replace what's leaving. Ideally, a fire pulls air from the room to burn. But if the kitchen hood is sucking harder than the chimney can pull, the lard gets starved.
It can't get makeup air.
It can't get makeup air.
So the fire's gasping for breath because your dryer is running.
Or worse, the house sucks air down the chimney to feed the dryer, bringing smoke into the room. but usually it just leads to a sluggish, low-oxygen burn.
A gasping fire is a smoky, cool, creosote-producing fire.
Exactly. It really is a system. You can't just look at the logs, you have to look at the whole house. Everything is connected.
Okay, moving on to segment 5. This is the one that really surprised me. It answers a question I've actually had myself.
Oh, yeah.
Why does the fireplace smell worse in the summer?
Ah, yes. The summer mystery.
Seriously. You haven't used it in months, it's July, it's hot out, and suddenly your living room smells like asphalt or a campfire gone wrong.
The text uses a really interesting term for this, microbiology.
Which sounds weird because creosote isn't alive. It's not mold.
No, it's not biological, it's sterile. But the metaphor works because it behaves like something organic. It reacts to the environment.
So break down the science of the smell. Why summer?
It starts with VOCs, volatile organic compounds.
Okay.
Creosote is basically made of the same stuff as asphalt or a coal tar, phenols, hydrocarbons. Now think about a freshly paved road. Does it smell in the winter?
Not really. Maybe if you put your nose right on it.
Does it smell on a hot August afternoon?
Oh, yeah. It reeks. You can smell it from a block away.
That's off-gassing.
Yeah.
Heat causes these compounds to become chemically active and release vapors. So when the summer sun beats down on your chimney masonry, it heats up the creosote inside.
It wakes it up.
It starts releasing those asphalt-like fumes.
Okay, so the heat wakes it up. But the text also mentioned humidity.
The hygroscopic factor. Creosote is hygroscopic, meaning it loves water. It absorbs moisture from the humid summer air.
And what does that water do to it?
It reactivates the organic acids. It loosens the molecular structure. It's like adding water to a dried stain. It makes it fresh again. So now you have hot, damp creosote that is off-gassing like crazy.
But why does the smell come into the house? Shouldn't it go up the chimney? Hot air rises, right?
Not in the summer. This is the reverse stack effect.
The reverse stack.
In the winter, the air inside is warm, so it rises up the chimney. That's the stack effect.
Right.
But in the summer, your house is air conditioned. The air inside is 70 degrees. The air outside is 90 degrees. Cold air is heavy. It sinks.
So the house is basically sucking air down the chimney.
Precisely. Your house acts like a vacuum pump. It pulls that hot, humid, off-gassing air right down the flue and dumps it into your living room.
That is disgusting and also fascinating.
It explains why the smell is often described as industrial adhesive or asphalt, because chemically, that is exactly what you are smelling.
Yeah. So what's the solution? Air freshener.
Absolutely not. You cannot mask it. The text is very clear. You have to remove the source,
Clean it out.
which means cleaning out the creosote, or you have to stop the airflow.
The text mentioned dampers.
Specifically, top ceiling dampers. Traditional dampers are at the bottom of the chimney. They leak.
Right.
A top ceiling damper is like a Tupperware lid for the very top of your chimney. It seals it shut, stopping that downward draft completely.
So if your living room smells like a road crew in July, you probably need a chimney sweep and a new damper.
That is a very safe bet.
This has been a massive eye-opener. Let's head into the outro and try to synthesize all this.
Let's do it.
We started this deep dive thinking about chimney fires as these random acts of bad luck. But what we've learned is that a clean chimney isn't just about brushing. It's about being a detective.
It is. It's about diagnosing the system. A safe burn isn't magic. It requires 3 things: high temperatures, above that magic 451-degree store, dry wood, and adequate oxygen.
That's the trifecta.
If you have those 3, you break the cycle. You stop the creosote from forming in the first place.
And for me, the biggest aha moment was the concept of stage 3 creosote as stored energy.
That's the key takeaway. It's not dirt, it's fuel. It's a battery of chemical energy waiting for a trigger.
And the irony is just painful. The fires that feel the most cozy, those long, slow, smoldering burns, are the ones charging that battery.
Yeah.
We are literally building the trap ourselves in the pursuit of comfort.
We are. We compromise efficiency for aesthetics, and physics makes us pay for it.
So here is a provocative thought to leave you with. We spend thousands of dollars maintaining our cars. We change the oil, we check the tires, we tune the engine.
Right.
If we treated our cars the way we treat our fireplaces, starving them of air, using low-quality fuel, ignoring the exhaust system, they would break down in a month.
But because the chimney is made of brick, it fails silently.
Yeah.
It hides the damage on the inside.
Until it doesn't, until it fails violently.
Right.
So next time you light a fire, don't just think about the cozy glow. Think about the chemical reactor you just started up. Check your wood, open that damper, and let it burn hot. Your house will thank you.
And stay safe.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one. Okay, we are going to hit pause on your training session for just a minute. I know you're probably deep in the weeds of, you know, a flu liner tutorial or something, but we really need to talk about who is actually producing all of this content.
Right. If you're here watching these videos, you're already getting the benefit of the training. But there's a much bigger ecosystem behind this YouTube channel. We're looking at chimneysweeps.com, and it's pretty clear this isn't just a media company. It's more like a funnel, a vetting engine for the industry.
That's a really important distinction because usually with these online directories, you just pay a fee, you get your pin on a map. Is that what's happening here? Is this just another pay-to-play model?
No. The documentation we have suggests it's the opposite. It seems like they're trying to solve that classic low bidder problem that plagues the trades. They're not looking for advertisers. They're building a vetted network. And that standard, it seems to come directly from the founder, Ray Gessner.
I was looking at his bio. You don't often see this kind of background. It's this mix of high-level academic engineering and, actual trade mastery. You usually get the guy in the office or the guy in the truck.
Exactly. And that combination is really the key here. Ray isn't just some tech guy. He has a master's degree in civil engineering. He's a licensed professional engineer, a PE in multiple states.
But he also holds master licenses, HVAC, gas fitter, plumber.
And he's a certified home inspector through NACI.
So he's looking at a chimney as both a structural engineer and as a hands-on inspector. But how does that actually translate to the platform? Is it just good branding?
It seems to be baked right into the gatekeeping. Because he understands the physics, the code, the actual science behind it, the platform can enforce a technical standard that, a simple lead gen site just couldn't. Which brings us to their whole gold standard vetting process.
Okay, right. So for the professionals listening right now, the ones who are already doing great work, how does the platform actually verify that? How do they filter out the noise?
Well, it starts with the basics, the non-negotiables. You have to have the proper licensing, general liability insurance, workers' comp, all of that.
The table stakes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the real barrier to entry is the CCI exam, the Certified Chimney Inspector Test.
And this isn't just one of those watch a video and click a button certifications.
Oh, far from it. Ray Gessner developed this exam himself to test for technical accuracy, safety knowledge. It's designed to be difficult. It's a filter, plain and simple. It ensures that if a homeowner finds you through them, they're not just getting a name from a list. They're getting someone who passed a really tough technical evaluation.
Okay, so let's say a listener runs that gauntlet. They've got the insurance, they study, they pass the CCI exam, they're in. What's the actual utility for them? Why jump through all those hoops instead of, say, just buying more Google ads?
Because it shifts you from just being listed somewhere to being part of an operational support system. The sources show a few key benefits. First, there's the proprietary inspection report software.
Which I'm guessing is based on those same engineering standards we were just talking about.
Precisely. It automates the reporting, so your paperwork has the same rigor as the inspection itself. Then there's the community. You get access to these monthly online forums, mentorship, networking. It's like a mastermind group for ethical operators.
And that brings us to getting the actual clients. Let's talk about the number 833-CHIMNEY.
That's the engine. The website, that phone number, they drive homeowners who are specifically looking for qualified professionals. These are not people just shopping for the cheapest price. They're looking for vetted expertise for big jobs, relining, structural engineering inspections.
So it creates this kind of feedback loop. You watch the free training, like the video you're probably watching right now, to get better at your job. Then you pass the exam to prove you're good. And then the platform sends you customers who actually value and are willing to pay for that expertise.
It helps the good guys build stronger businesses because they finally stop competing with the companies that are just cutting corners. It really elevates the trade.
So I guess here's the challenge for everyone listening. You are sitting here right now. You're learning for free from one of the best sources in the world. But the real question is, are you ready to capitalize on it? Are you good enough to pass that CCI exam, to join the network, and be recognized as one of the best?
If you think you're operating at that level, head over to the site. Click Join Us.
All right, we'll let you get back to your training now. Thanks for listening.